Captain Hyun-woo stared at the navigation screen with tired eyes. The exploration vessel Dauntless had been traveling through empty space for 3 weeks. Nothing but cold stars and dead planets. The crew was getting restless. They wanted to find something new, something worth the long journey from Earth. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of engines. Da-yoon sat at her science station checking readings that never changed. Taemin walked between the weapon controls looking bored. The other crew members did their jobs with no excitement. Then the communication system made a sound. A weak signal, coming from somewhere far ahead. Ji-ho looked up from his station with surprise on his face. "Captain, I am getting something strange," Ji-ho said. His fingers moved quickly over the control panel. "It is a distress signal, very weak but definitely asking for help." Hyun-woo moved closer to look at the data. The signal was old, maybe days old. It came from a star system that all human ships avoided, the home system of the Vorthak Empire. Everyone on the bridge became very quiet. They all knew about the Vorthak. 12 feet tall monsters with black armor skin and sharp teeth. The most dangerous hunters in the galaxy. They killed entire planets full of people just for food and sport. "Sir, that signal is coming from Keth Moran," Da-yoon said. Her voice was soft but worried. "That is the Vorthak home world. No human ship has ever been there and returned." Taemin stepped forward with his hand near his weapon. "Captain, this has to be a trap. The Vorthak do not send distress signals. They are the ones who attack others. They probably want to trick us into coming close so they can destroy our ship." Hyun-woo looked at the signal data again. Something felt wrong about it. The Vorthak were proud warriors. They would rather die than ask for help, especially from humans. The two species had been enemies for 40 years, ever since the Vorthak attacked the human colony on New Geneva. But the signal kept repeating. The same message over and over. It sounded desperate. Real fear in an alien language that the ship computer could barely translate. "What does the message say?" Hyun-woo asked. Ji-ho worked with the translation program for several minutes. "The computer is having trouble with their language, sir. But it seems to be saying something like, 'Help us or we die.' Starvation. No food. Please help." The bridge crew looked at each other with confusion. Starvation. The Vorthak were the greatest predators in known space. They ate everything. How could they be starving? "This makes no sense," Da-yoon said. She pulled up files about the Vorthak on her screen. "According to all our records, the Vorthak Empire controls hundreds of star systems. They have been conquering and eating other species for thousands of years. They should have more food than they could ever need." Myung-soo, the ship historian, joined the conversation. "Captain, our last intelligence reports about the Vorthak are over 2 years old. We avoid their space completely. We have no idea what has been happening in their empire recently." Hyun-woo walked to the main viewing screen. Stars filled the darkness ahead. Somewhere in that direction was the most dangerous empire humanity had ever known. And they were asking for help. "Sir, we should not go there," Taemin said again. "Even if this signal is real, the Vorthak are our enemies. They killed millions of humans on New Geneva. They ate children, sir. We owe them nothing but revenge." Other crew members nodded in agreement. The attack on New Geneva was still fresh in human memory. Entire families destroyed. Cities burned. The Vorthak had shown no mercy to anyone. But something about the signal bothered Hyun-woo. The desperation in it felt real. And if the greatest predators in the galaxy were truly starving, what did that mean for everyone else? "Da-yoon, how long would it take us to reach their system?" he asked. "About 6 days at maximum speed, sir. But Captain, our weapons are not designed to fight Vorthak ships. If this is a trap, we would not survive." Hyun-woo closed his eyes and thought. His job was to explore unknown regions of space, to find new things and report back to Earth. This was definitely something new. The proud Vorthak Empire asking for help was the most surprising discovery any human ship had ever made. "We are going to investigate," he said finally. The crew looked shocked. Taemin stepped closer to the captain. "Sir, this could be suicide. The Vorthak hate humans more than any other species. They see us as weak prey. Maybe they did, Hyunwoo said, but something has changed. That signal is real fear. I can hear it even through the translation problems. We need to know what is happening in Vorthak space. He turned to face his crew. I know this is dangerous. I know we have every reason to hate them, but we are explorers. Our job is to discover truth, and the truth is that something terrible is happening to our greatest enemies. Jiho continued working with the signal. Captain, I'm getting better translation now. The message definitely mentions starvation and death. It also says something about their worlds being empty. No prey animals left. Set course for the Vorthak. System, Hyunwoo ordered. Maximum speed, and keep our weapons ready just in case. The Dauntless turned toward the dangerous stars ahead. None of the crew knew what they would find there, but they all understood that the galaxy was about to change forever. As the ship jumped to faster than light speed, the distress signal grew stronger, and with it came the strange feeling that humanity was about to discover something that would challenge everything they thought they knew about their greatest enemies. 6 days later, the Dauntless dropped out of faster than light speed at the edge of the Keth-Moran system. What the crew saw made them stare in shocked silence. The great Vorthak homeworld hung before them like a dying ember instead of the bright, green planet their old record showed. Captain Hyunwoo gripped his chair as he looked at the main screen. The planet's surface was brown and gray, where it should have been covered in thick jungle. No lights came from the cities that once glowed, like stars. Even the 3 orbital stations that protected the system drifted dark and powerless. Captain, I am reading massive environmental collapse, Da-eun reported from her science station. Her voice was quiet with disbelief. The atmosphere still breathes, but plant life readings are almost zero. And sir, the cities are mostly empty. Taemin checked his weapon systems but found nothing to shoot at. Where are their defense fleets? The Vorthak usually have hundreds of warships protecting their homeworld. I am not detecting any active vessels. Jiho worked frantically with his communication equipment. I am picking up very weak signals from the planet's surface. Multiple distress calls, but they are not organized. It sounds like individual Vorthak calling for help rather than military communications. Myung-soo pulled up historical data on his computer. According to our records from 5 years ago, Keth-Moran supported over 2 billion Vorthak. Now I am reading maybe 50 million life signs across the entire planet. The numbers made everyone quiet. 50 million survivors from 2 billion people. What could destroy 90% of the most dangerous species in the galaxy? Take us into orbit, Hyunwoo ordered. But keep our distance from the planet. Stay ready to jump away if anything threatens us. As they moved closer, the true horror became clear. The great Vorthak cities were ruins. Massive structures built for 12-foot-tall warriors stood empty and crumbling. Parks and hunting grounds that once fed the population showed only bare dirt and dead trees. So young, the ship doctor and biologist joined them on the bridge. She studied the readings with growing alarm. Captain, this looks like total ecological collapse, but how is that possible? The Vorthak were perfect predators. They could eat almost anything that lived. Maybe that was the problem, Myung-soo said quietly. Perfect predators that ate everything. A new signal came from the planet's surface. This one was stronger and used better translation technology. Jiho worked to clean up the message. Unknown vessel. This is War Prince Krav, Thos, of the Northern Territories. We detect your ship in our space. We are not here to fight. We are dying. Our people starve. If you have food, we will trade anything for it. Even our weapons and ships. The crew looked at each other in amazement. A Vorthak war prince was begging for food. These were the same creatures that once conquered star systems just to hold victory feasts on the bones of their enemies. Should we answer them, sir? Jiho asked. Hyunwoo thought for a long moment. Send a response. Tell them we are humans from the ship Dauntless. We received their distress signals and came to investigate. Ask them what happened here. The answer came back quickly, too quickly for proud Vorthak warriors. It showed how desperate they were. Humans. Yes, we know humans. We attacked your colonies before. We thought you were weak prey. We were wrong about many things. Will you talk with us? We will explain everything if you will listen." Taman shook his head. "Captain, this could still be a trick. The Vorthak are clever hunters. They might pretend to be weak to draw us down to the planet." But So-Young was studying more data from her sensors. "Sir, I am reading massive malnutrition in the life signs below. These readings match creatures that have been starving for months or even years. This is not fake." Another transmission came, from the planet. This time the translator worked better and they could hear the weakness in the alien voice. "Human ship, my name is Kravthos. I was once a mighty warrior who led fleets to conquer 12 star systems. Now I dig through garbage piles looking for anything my children can eat. Our empire is dead. Our worlds are empty. We destroyed everything that fed us and now we pay the price for our greed." The transmission continued and the Vorthak warrior told a story that chilled everyone who heard it. For 3,000 years, the Vorthak Empire had grown by consuming everything in its path. They ate all the animals on planets they conquered. They turned living worlds into hunting grounds for sport. They destroyed entire ecosystems for fun. But nature always balances itself. As the Vorthak eliminated more and more species, their own food supply began to shrink. The great predators needed enormous amounts of protein every day to feed their massive bodies and aggressive metabolisms. When they started running out of prey animals, they turned on smaller predator species. Then plant-eating animals. Then anything that moved. "We thought we were smart," Kravthos continued. "We developed better weapons and faster ships so we could hunt on more worlds. But we were killing everything faster than life could replace itself. 10 years ago, we realized our mistake. 5 years ago, we tried to change, but it was too late." So-Young was taking notes as fast as she could. "Captain, this explains everything. They created a food web collapse across their entire empire. When you remove too many species from an ecosystem, the whole thing crashes." The Vorthak warrior was still talking. "Our scientists tried to warn us. They said we needed to let prey species recover, but the war councils would not listen. They said we were the apex predators and we could take whatever we wanted. Now our children die because we were too proud to understand that even the strongest hunters need something to hunt." Hyunwoo looked at his crew. Every face showed the same mix of horror and pity. These were their enemies. The monsters who had killed human families and eaten human children. But they were also living beings facing extinction because of their own success. "What do you want from us?" Hyunwoo asked over the communication system. "We want to live," came the simple answer. "We will do anything. Give up our weapons. Serve other species. Become prey ourselves if needed. We just want our children to survive. You humans found ways to grow food without destroying planets. Will you teach us? Please." The bridge went silent. The greatest predators in the galaxy were begging humanity for salvation. The crew meeting room on the Dauntless had never been so quiet. Captain Hyunwoo sat at the head of the table looking at his officers. Each face showed different emotions: anger, confusion, fear, and something that might have been pity. Seung-ho, the ship counselor, spoke first. "Captain, we have to help them. Yes, they were our enemies. Yes, they did terrible things, but they are dying. Their children are starving. We cannot just watch an entire species disappear." Taemin slammed his hand on the table. "They killed my sister on New Geneva. They ate her alive while she was still breathing. They showed no mercy to human children. Why should we show mercy to theirs?" The room grew even quieter. Everyone knew about New Geneva. The Vorthak had attacked the colony without warning. Families destroyed, cities burned. The aliens had treated humans like cattle for slaughter. Boram, the tactical officer, pulled up battle reports on her tablet. "Sir, the Vorthak Empire killed over 15 million humans in their raids. They destroyed 12 human colonies completely. They never took prisoners. They never showed any kindness. They are monsters." But So-Young had been studying the medical data from the planet below. "I have been looking at their biology. The Vorthak metabolism is incredibly aggressive. They need huge amounts of protein every single day or they die. Their bodies were designed for constant hunting and eating. When they run out of food, they starve much faster than humans would. Mina, the ship engineer, had been working on technical problems. Captain, I ran some calculations. Human food, production technology could theoretically feed the Vorthak survivors. Our protein synthesis systems from the colony ships could produce enough artificial meat to keep them alive. But at what cost? Asked Dong Hyun, the ship philosopher. If we save them, we give them the strength to attack us again. If we let them die, we become the monsters this time. Yunwoo looked around the table. What do you think will happen if we just leave them to starve? Myung-soo checked his historical data. Based on their past behavior, the surviving Vorthak will probably turn to raiding weaker species for food. They will become desperate pirates attacking anyone they can find. The dying empire could become even more dangerous than the living one. Ji-ho had been monitoring communications from the planet. Captain, I am picking up more transmissions. Different groups of Vorthak are fighting each other for the little food that remains. Some areas are already practicing cannibalism. The social order is completely breaking down. The door to the meeting room opened, and Dr. So-young entered with a data pad full of new information. I have been analyzing the Vorthak biology more carefully. There is something important you all need to know. She activated the wall screen and showed complex biological charts. The Vorthak digestive system is actually very efficient at processing artificial proteins, much more efficient than human systems. If we could provide them with synthetic food, they would need less resources than feeding the same number of humans. Seung-ho leaned forward. So helping them would not be as expensive as we thought. Exactly. But there is more. So-young changed the display. Their aggressive metabolism that makes them such good hunters also makes them very good at physical work. A fed Vorthak can work 10 times harder than a human. They could be incredibly valuable allies instead of enemies. Taemin shook his head. You are talking about trusting creatures that see us as food. How do we know they will not turn on us the moment they get strong again? A new voice came from the communication system. Ji-ho had left the channel open to the planet. War Prince Kravthos was speaking again. Human ship, I know you are discussing our fate. I understand your anger. We deserve to die for what we did to your people. But please, if you will not save us, at least save our children. They never hurt anyone. They are innocent. The transmission continued, and they could hear other Vorthak voices in the background, weak voices calling for food, the sound of crying that even crossed species barriers. There are Vorthak children down there who have never seen a living animal except their own kind, Kravthos said. They do not know about conquest or war. They only know hunger. Please, we will give you anything, our technology, our ships, our lives. Just let the children live. Hae-won, the agricultural specialist, had been quiet during the meeting. Now she stood up with determination in her eyes. Captain, I request permission to work with the Vorthak survivors to develop an emergency feeding program. The room erupted in surprised voices. Taemin stood up angrily. You want to go down to that planet full of man-eating monsters? They are not man-eating anymore, Hae-won replied calmly. They are dying. And I took an oath to preserve life wherever I found it. That includes alien life. Hyunwoo studied his young officer. Hae-won was barely 25 years old, but she was one of the best food production experts in the human fleet. What exactly are you proposing? Let me take a shuttle down to the planet with enough synthetic protein for a few hundred Vorthak. I will work with their scientists to set up production systems. If they try to hurt me, you can destroy the planet from orbit. But if they keep their word, we can save them. The captain looked around the table again. Half his officers looked horrified at the idea. The other half looked thoughtful. Dong-hyun spoke carefully. Captain, there is something else to consider. Right now, humanity is seen as a weak species by most of the galaxy. We are explorers and traders, not warriors. If we save the Vorthak, the greatest predators known to exist, it will send a message to everyone that humans are not weak. We are strong enough to show mercy even to our enemies. Or it will show that we are fools who can be tricked by our enemies, Taemin replied. Hyunwoo made his decision. We are going to help them, but with conditions. Hae-won, prepare your equipment. I am going with you to the surface. We will. offer the Vorthak survival in exchange for a complete change in their society. The meeting room buzzed with nervous energy. They were about to attempt something that had never been tried before, saving the lives of a species that had tried to destroy them. Outside the ship, the dying Vorthak world waited for humanity's answer. The shuttle landed on the surface of Keth Moran with a soft thud. Captain Hyun-woo and Haewon stepped out wearing protective suits and carrying equipment for food production. Around them, the ruins of a once great city stretched in all directions, waiting. For them was War Prince Kravthos and a female Vorthak who introduced herself as matriarch Zeth Kara. Both aliens were much thinner than the monsters humans remembered from old battle recordings. Their black armor skin hung loose on their massive frames. Their sharp teeth seemed too big for their gaunt faces. "You came," Zeth Kara said in perfect human language. "I did not believe you would actually come to our world." Hyun-woo looked surprised. "You speak our language very well." "I learned it 40 years ago when I was planning to conquer Earth," she replied without shame. "I studied human culture to find weaknesses. Now I use that knowledge to beg for your help. The universe has strange humor." Haewon began unpacking the protein synthesis equipment while the two species talked. She worked quickly to set up the emergency feeding station. Soon the smell of artificial meat filled the air. Young Vorthak emerged from hiding places in the ruined buildings. Children who had probably never seen enough food in their entire lives. They approached cautiously, sniffing the air with hope and fear. "Before we give you anything," Hyun-woo said, "we need to establish rules. Humanity will help you survive, but only if you agree to change everything about your society." Kravthos nodded eagerly. "We will agree to anything." "Will you really?" Hyun-woo pulled out a data tablet with the terms already written. No more conquest. No more raiding other species. No more treating other beings as prey. Your warriors must become protectors instead of destroyers. Zeth Kara read the document carefully. Her large eyes showed surprise and then something that might have been relief. "You are asking us to give up everything we have been for 3,000 years?" "Yes. Because what you were for 3,000 years almost destroyed you completely." The matriarch looked at the hungry children around them. Some were so weak they could barely stand. "Our old ways brought us to this. Perhaps your ways will bring us to something better." Over the next several hours, they worked out the details of what Hyun-woo called the Sustenance Covenant. Humanity would provide food production technology and training to help the Vorthak rebuild their population. In exchange, the Vorthak would restructure their entire civilization. Their warrior culture would become a guardian culture. Instead of hunting other species, they would protect them. Their military fleets would patrol space routes to stop pirates and raiders. Their soldiers would learn peacekeeping instead of conquest. But not all Vorthak agreed with the changes. As news of the Covenant spread across the planet, a group of traditional warriors led by War Chief Grokmar gathered to oppose it. "This is surrender," Grokmar roared at a meeting of surviving nobles. "We are the apex predators of the galaxy. We do not serve other species. We rule them." "Look around you," Zeth Kara replied. "We ruled ourselves to near extinction. The humans offer us survival. That is more than our pride ever gave us." The argument continued for days while Haewon worked with Vorthak scientists to establish permanent food production facilities. She discovered that the aliens were extremely intelligent when they were not focused on hunting and war. Their technology was actually more advanced than human systems in many ways. Yu Jin, the diplomatic specialist from the Dauntless, came down to help negotiate the more complex parts of the agreement. She worked with Zeth Kara to create new laws and social structures for the surviving Vorthak communities. The breakthrough came when Dr. So-young arrived with more detailed biological research. She had discovered that Vorthak hunting instincts could be redirected through careful training. Instead of seeking prey to kill, they could learn to seek threats to eliminate. "Your people are natural protectors," So-young explained to a gathering of Vorthak leaders. "You just need to change what you protect. Instead of protecting only yourselves, you protect everyone." Insu, the security expert, began working with reformed Vorthak warriors to develop new training programs. The sight of 12-foot-tall predators learning crowd control techniques and conflict resolution was strange but inspiring. The real test came when Grokmar and his followers attempted a rebellion. They attacked one of the new food production facilities, trying to destroy the human equipment and kill the human workers. But instead of fleeing or calling for help, the reformed Vorthak defended the facility. Kravthos himself fought against his own species to protect the humans who had saved them. "This is what we are now," he declared as he stood over the defeated rebels. "We are guardians. We protect those who cannot protect themselves, even if they are smaller and weaker than us." Grokmar looked up at his former ally with confusion. "They are prey animals. We are predators. This is not natural." "Natural got us extinct," Kravthos replied. "This gets us alive." After the rebellion failed, more Vorthak began to accept the new way of life. The food production systems were working. For the first time in years, Vorthak children were getting enough to eat. The population stopped shrinking and began to grow again. Seth Kara established the first joint human Vorthak research station, where both species worked together to develop better food systems and environmental restoration techniques. The cooperation between former enemies amazed everyone involved. "6 months ago, I was planning raids on human ships," admitted Thekvor, a former ship captain who now worked as a station security chief. "Today I am protecting human scientists while they teach us how to rebuild our world. I do not understand how this happened, but I am grateful it did." The changes were not easy. Many Vorthak struggled with their new role as protectors instead of hunters. Some humans still feared and hated their former enemies, but slowly, carefully, the two species began to work together. The Sustenance Covenant became a model for other species throughout the region. News spread across the galaxy that humanity had saved their greatest enemies and turned them into allies. Some species called humans foolish. Others called them wise. But everyone agreed they were no longer weak prey animals to be ignored. As the first year of the Covenant ended, Hyunwoo stood in the rebuilt city center of Kethmaran, watching human and Vorthak children play together. The sight would have been impossible to imagine just months before. "Do you think this will really work long-term?" Haewon asked as she joined him. "I do not know," Hyunwoo replied honestly. "But I know that doing nothing would have definitely failed. At least now we have a chance at peace." Above them, the first new Vorthak patrol ships launched into space. But instead of hunting for prey, they were searching for pirates to stop and refugees to protect. The apex predators had become apex guardians. The galaxy watched and wondered what other miracles humanity might accomplish. 2 years had passed since the Sustenance Covenant was signed. The transformation of both species was remarkable but fragile. Airi, now the administrator of the joint human Vorthak colonies, stood on the observation deck of Station Unity watching the daily miracle of former enemies working together. Below her, massive Vorthak workers helped human engineers build new cities. The aliens were incredibly strong and could work in conditions that would kill humans. In return, humans provided the knowledge and technology to make the work efficient and safe. But the most important changes were happening in space. Former Vorthak warships now patrolled the trade routes between star systems. Instead of attacking merchant vessels, they protected them from pirates and raiders. Captain Chung Min of the merchant ship Golden Horizon sent a grateful message to Station Unity. "Vorthak patrol ship Thunder Guardian saved us from Sekthari pirates yesterday. 6 months ago, I would have been more afraid of the Vorthak than the pirates. Now I sleep better knowing they are out there watching over us." The change was not easy for everyone. Changmin himself had lost his entire family in the New Geneva massacre. Working with reformed Vorthak required incredible mental strength and forgiveness. The human government had started a controversial program pairing human survivors of Vorthak attacks with reformed Vorthak guardians. The psychological healing process was painful for both species but necessary for lasting peace. "I still have nightmares about that day," Changmin told Counselor Sung Ho during one of their sessions. "When I see Vorthak faces, I remember my daughter screaming. But I also see Kravthos teaching human children how to grow food. The mind struggles to make sense of it." The reformed Vorthak had their own struggles. Thekvor, who had once been the rebel Grokmar before finding redemption through the Covenant, now served as a war leader again. But instead of leading conquest fleets, he coordinated defensive operations. "My instincts tell me to hunt and kill," he admitted to Dr. So-young during a medical examination. "Every day I must choose to protect instead. It is like swimming against a river current that has flowed for millions of years. But the current is changing. My children do not dream of conquest. They dream of exploration and discovery." The real test of the new alliance came when long-range sensors detected an invasion fleet approaching the region. The Sekthari, a parasitic species that consumed other beings from the inside out, had decided to expand into human and Vorthak territory. The old Vorthak would have either fled to protect their own worlds or negotiated territorial deals that sacrificed weaker species. Instead, they chose to fight for everyone. Quan Ho, a human military advisor, worked alongside Thekvor to plan the defense. Their combined tactics were unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Human strategy and technology merged with Vorthak's strength and hunting instincts created devastating effectiveness against the invaders. "The Sekthari cannot understand us," Thekvor explained to his mixed human and Vorthak crew. "They expect predators to run or prey to hide. They do not expect predators who fight to defend prey. Their battle programs have no response for this." The space battle above the colony world of New Eden was fierce but brief. Sekthari ships were designed to fight either aggressive hunters or defensive prey animals. They could not handle opponents who combined both approaches. Vorthak ships charged directly at enemy vessels with terrifying aggression, just as their old warrior culture demanded. But instead of trying to destroy everything, they focused on protecting human ships and civilian evacuators. Their attacks were precise rather than wild. Human ships provided covering fire and tactical coordination, while Vorthak warriors boarded enemy vessels to eliminate threats from within. The sight of 12-foot-tall aliens fighting desperately to save smaller human crews inspired courage throughout the fleet. Yun Jung, a human medic, worked in the field hospital treating wounded from both species. "I am seeing something incredible here," she reported to Station Unity. "Vorthak warriors are refusing medical treatment until human wounded are cared for first. They say they are guardians, and guardians protect the weak before themselves." The battle ended with complete victory for the Alliance. No Sekthari ships escaped and no civilian ships were lost. But more importantly, the victory proved that the transformation was real. The Vorthak had permanently changed from destroyers to protectors. News of the battle spread across the galaxy within days. Species that had lived in terror of the Vorthak Empire for centuries suddenly began asking for their protection instead. The Outer Keth Council, a group of small peaceful species, sent a formal request to Station Unity. "We have lived in fear of raiders and conquerors for generations. We offer trade agreements and resource sharing in exchange for protection from the Vorthak Guardians." Similar requests came from dozens of other species. The galaxy was realizing that reformed apex predators made the ultimate peacekeepers. No, pirates or raiders wanted to fight 12-foot-tall aliens with razor-sharp claws and advanced weapons. But the Vorthak Guardians were careful to avoid the mistakes of their past. Instead of demanding tribute or submission, they offered genuine protection in exchange for fair trade and mutual cooperation. "We learned that taking everything leads to having nothing," Zethkara explained to a gathering of alien diplomats. "Now we take only what we need, and give more than we take. This way leads to abundance for everyone." The success brought new challenges. Some human politicians worried about becoming too dependent on Vorthak protection. Some Vorthak worried about losing their identity by serving other species. Young Haiwan, now a senior administrator, addressed these concerns in her reports to Earth. "The partnership is not about humans controlling Vorthak or Vorthak protecting humans. It is about two species becoming something greater together than either could be alone." The proof came when refugee ships began arriving from distant parts of the galaxy. Species fleeing wars and disasters had heard about the safe haven created by human wisdom and Vorthak strength. They came seeking shelter, and found a new kind of civilization. Station Unity expanded rapidly to accommodate the newcomers. Vorthak construction crews worked around the clock building new habitats. Human administrators organized food distribution and job assignments. Dozens of alien species contributed their own skills and knowledge. "This is what we were meant to be," Kravthos said, as he watched alien children playing together in the station. Parks. Not destroyers or prey animals, but builders of something better. The transformation was nearly complete. Where once the most feared predators in the galaxy had spread terror and death, now they spread safety and hope. The apex hunters had become apex shepherds, protecting all the smaller species that grazed in the vast pasture of space. But even as they celebrated their success, long-range communications were detecting new distress signals from the far reaches of the galaxy. Other apex predator species were beginning to face the same ecological collapse that had nearly destroyed the Vorthak. The question now was whether humanity and their reformed Vorthak allies were ready to save the next group of fallen predators. The galaxy was about to test just how far their compassion could reach. 5 years had passed since the first distress signal from Keth Moran changed everything. The Human Vorthak Alliance had become the most powerful force for peace in their region of the galaxy. What started as a desperate rescue mission had grown into something that amazed everyone who witnessed it. Captain Jinwoo, son of the retired Captain Hyunwoo, stood on the bridge of the new exploration vessel Harmony. At his side was Commander Velthara, a young Vorthak who had been born after the Sustenance Covenant. She had never known the old ways of conquest and destruction. To her, protecting other species was as natural as breathing. "Captain, we are receiving multiple distress signals from the outer spiral," reported Communications Officer Su Jin. "It sounds like the same pattern we heard from Keth Moran 5 years ago." Jinwoo looked at the data with experienced eyes. He had grown up hearing stories of his father's historic mission. Now he was facing a similar choice. "What species is sending the signals?" "The Krex Dominion, sir. Another apex predator empire. According to our records, they control over 300 star systems and have been expanding aggressively for 2 millennia. Velthara studied the tactical information with interest. "The Krex are crystalline beings who consume mineral resources rather than biological life. But they have the same problem as my people did. They strip mine entire planets until nothing is left." Sujin continued decoding the transmissions. "The messages are becoming clearer. They are reporting widespread resource depletion across their empire. Their population is dying because they have consumed all available materials for food and construction." Jinwoo made his decision quickly. The Alliance had protocols for this situation now. "Set course for Krex space. Send word to Station Unity that we are investigating another ecological collapse situation." The response from Station Unity came within hours. Admiral Zeth Kara, now the Supreme Commander of Alliance forces, transmitted her approval along with additional ships and specialists. "Harmony, this is Admiral Zeth Kara. You are authorized to offer emergency aid to the Krex under the Galactic Salvation Protocol. Remember that apex predators in collapse can be extremely dangerous. Take no unnecessary risks." The Galactic Salvation Protocol had been developed after the success with the Vorthak. It provided a standard framework for helping collapsed predator species transform into guardian cultures. Dozens of Alliance worlds now contributed resources to support these rescue missions. When the Harmony reached Krex space, they found familiar signs of collapse. Stripped planets floating like bare rocks in space. Silent cities built from crystalline structures now dark and empty. A once mighty empire reduced to scattered survivors. But the Krex response was different from the Vorthak. Instead of begging for help, they attacked immediately. "Captain, 12 Krex warships are approaching at attack speed," reported Tactical Officer Namjoon. "They are not responding to our communications." "Shields up. Do not return fire unless absolutely necessary," Jinwoo ordered. The Alliance had learned that desperate predators often tested potential saviors with violence. Velthara was studying the attack patterns. "Sir, these ships are moving inefficiently. Their crews are probably weakened by resource starvation. They are fighting from instinct rather than strategy." The Krex attack was fierce but brief. Their weapons were powerful, but their ships were running on minimal energy reserves. After a few minutes of harmless bombardment against the Harmony's advanced shields, the enemy vessels simply stopped moving. "Krek ships are powering down," Namjoon reported. "I think they ran out of fuel." Communications finally came through from the lead Krek's vessel. The translation was difficult because crystalline beings communicated through harmonic vibrations rather than words. "Unknown vessel, we acknowledge defeat. Take our resources and leave us to die with honor. We will not beg for survival like weaker species." Jinwoo looked at Velthera with amusement. "They sound familiar." "Yes," the young Vorthak replied. "My people said almost exactly the same thing. Pride dies hard in apex predators." The rescue operation took months rather than days. Unlike the biological Vorthak, the crystalline Kreks required completely different solutions. Human geologists and engineers worked with reformed Vorthak construction experts to develop mineral synthesis technology. Dr. Sang Mi, now an elderly but still brilliant scientist, led the research team that cracked the Kreks resource crisis. "They need rare crystals to survive, but they consumed all natural sources. We can create artificial crystals using stellar energy collectors." The Kreks were even more resistant to change than the Vorthak had been. Their culture was based on consuming and controlling rather than biological hunting. Convincing them to become protectors instead of conquerors required new approaches. Diplomat Yu Na worked with Kreks leaders to establish the Crystal Covenant, a modified version of the original Sustenance Covenant. The Kreks would use their advanced construction abilities to build infrastructure for other species instead of stripping their worlds bare. "You are asking us to serve those we once ruled," said Kreks Overmind Zonkar through harmonic translation. "We are asking you to build instead of destroy," Yuna replied. "Your people are master engineers. Imagine what you could create if you stopped tearing everything down." The transformation was slow but steady. Kreks engineering teams began constructing space stations and planetary habitats for refugee species. Their naturally efficient construction methods, guided by human planning and Vorthak labor, created marvels that amazed the galaxy. But the real proof of change came when a third apex predator species, the gas giant dwelling Nethys, also faced ecological collapse. This time, both humans and reformed Kreks and Vorthak worked together to offer salvation. The rescue mission became a template that the Alliance used across the galaxy. Wherever apex predators faced the consequences of their own destructive success, the Alliance arrived with food production technology, resource synthesis systems, and most importantly, a path to redemption. Captain Jinwoo stood in the observation lounge of Station Unity, now expanded to accommodate dozens of different species. Through the massive windows, he could see human children playing with young Vorthak and Kreks beings. A generation was growing up that had never known these species as enemies. "My father saved one dying empire," he said to Commander Velthera. "Now we are saving them all." "Not saving," she corrected gently. "Teaching them to save themselves and others. There is a difference." Outside the station, the combined fleets of the Alliance patrolled the peaceful space lanes. Former apex predators from 6 different species worked together to protect merchant vessels, escort refugee convoys, and respond to distress calls from anywhere in the galaxy. The old cycle of conquest and destruction was broken. In its place grew something unprecedented in galactic history, a civilization based on cooperation rather than domination. The apex predators had become apex protectors, using their strength to shelter the weak instead of consuming them. Elder Zethkara, now retired but still respected throughout the Alliance, spent her final years teaching young beings of all species about the transformation. "We thought being the strongest meant taking everything we wanted," she would tell them. "But real strength means giving everything we can." As she spoke, new distress signals arrived from distant parts of the galaxy. More apex predators were discovering the limits of destruction and consumption. More species would need salvation and transformation. But the Alliance was ready. They had learned that the galaxy was full of fallen predators who could become protectors. All they needed was someone willing to show them mercy and teach them a better way. The humans who had once been seen as weak prey animals had become the shepherds of apex predators. They had proven that compassion was the ultimate strength, and that even the mightiest could fall but also rise again. The galaxy had found its new apex species, and they were protectors of all life, rather than destroyers of it. The age of endless conquest was ending. The age of universal salvation had begun,